Hey guys, how's it going? I just wanted to post another update real quick of another change I made to my Dreamline. If you guys were having any issues with your rear gauge, haven't not really being able to tell exactly where it's at, it's this gauge that's no longer on the gun. Well, let me take that out of the package. Sorry, it's the package for my new gauge. So this. Here's the camera. Focus on that. Okay, so that's the old gauge. Get that focused a little better. Alright, well, you guys know what this gauge looks like. It's lacking a lot of the detail that the main tank gauge has as far as the 10 bar increments, which made it kind of difficult to really tell precisely where the reg was at. That, and it seemed to fluctuate quite a bit. And I'd heard a lot of guys talk about, their FX gauges weren't that accurate. So, let's see if this will focus on here. That is the gauge that's on the tank. Okay, so you've got nice little 10 bar lines. And that seems to match both the hand pump and the gauge on the scuba tank. So that one I feel is accurate and it's giving me good readings and stuff. But the reg pressure one seemed to fluctuate a little bit, and that either is two things. It's either a bad gauge or the regulator's creeping and doing something weird. So I wanted to know what that was. I thought I had my reg set at about 130 when I put the new pressure gauge on here. This is a wika pressure gauge, wika gauge, and I ordered this from Huma. Let's see here we go. So that's the wika gauge. This is a little bit bigger. If you guys can see, I actually had to modify the stock a little bit to get that to fit on there. I'll take the stock off and show you exactly how much and where and all that good stuff. Well, you can see where. But when I put this gauge on and regassed the gun up, I was at about 115 bar. So I was substantially off the 130 bar that I thought I was at. So that was a pretty big difference to have a 15 bar discrepancy on your regulator, even with the chronograph, because you can get the same velocity a few different methods. But what's better for your air consumption and harmonics and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be, it's nice to know those things. So anyway, that's the wika gauge. Really, really happy with it. I guess let me go ahead and, I'm going to do a close-up video and show you how to take the stock off and the stock and the little notches and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I was really curious about, this is my uncle's impact right here. This is Impact X. This is one of the newer ones. It's not a Mark II, but this has a 700 millimeter slug barrel in it, 22 cal. I think he's cranking out the Hunter Supply. No, not Hunter Supply. It's the eBay slugs. They're 24 grains, and he's getting like up to 970. I think he's got them tuned for 950 and getting some pretty impressive groups with it. But he also upgraded gauges. So he's got the same wika gauge there on the regulator. Sorry, camera skills are pretty shoddy. So anyway, you guys get it. There's the wika gauge. The coolest gauge though is made by Edgun. That's the edmu gauge, and it's a digital gauge right here. Let's see if I can get this to cycle. So you tap the button once, shows you your bar. Tap it again, it shows you your average of shots. So how many bar is your average shot consumption? We'll go that's how many shots are left in the tank. Average bar used. We're not going to go there. Anyway, so it's got some pretty cool features on it. If I remember correctly, it will show you your shot count. Once you get the gauge calibrated to your regulator pressure and that stuff, then it'll should calculate a shot count for you. It'll tell you how much air you're using per shot, which I thought was really cool. So you can tell, are you using 3 bar per shot, or you're using 1.5 bar per shot. You can tell the difference in your tune. Is tuning at 120 bar to get 880 better than tuning to 130 bar to get 880? As far as air consumption, then you can look at the harmonic aspect of it. What's the mildest on the shock wave going through your barrel, and all that kind of fun stuff that us air gunners like to mess and play with and try and get phenomenal 100-yard groups and whatnot. So these are all 28 millimeter gauges, if my memory serves me correct. These are 23. The standard FX gauge is a 23 millimeter gauge. These are either 27 or 28. I'm not 100% sure. The reason I didn't put one on the front here on my Dreamline is because this dust cover that protects the fill port, excuse me, is like, you can't really put this gauge through there without sanding it down and doing some stuff to get it to fit. The edgun EDMU gauge, which I'm the most intrigued with, since this is a cylinder gun, not a bottle gun. Shot count's a little bit more important to me. I wanted to put that EDMU gauge on the front of my Dreamline and use that for tuning and stuff like that. But unfortunately, it won't fit in the cap, so I'd have to modify the dust cover here in order to make that a reality. I also tried filling my gun without the dust cover on there and discovered that you can in fact push your pellet probe too far in with dust cover not on there, pop one of your O-rings off your fill probe. So word of the wise, don't do that. It can, damage your O-ring, lose your O-ring, which they give you spares, but still it's a pain in the butt. And anyway, so just FYI, if you're thinking about changing your front gauge, you probably want to stick with a 23 millimeter gauge. Huma does sell replacement 23 millimeter gauges, and I may or may not get one. This one seems pretty accurate. It seems to be functioning okay. My regulator gauge, I just could not tell what my reg pressure was set at, and that was something I really wanted to know, because that was going to give me a power indication for what I'm going to be capable to do with this rifle. What weight 22 slugs and stuff like that. And one thing I also wanted to touch on too, I bought the 25 caliber bolt Dreamline because it came with a 600 mil barrel, because I want to put a 600 millimeter 22 barrel on this, because I think the 622 is going to be better suited to shooting heavier projectiles, and if this gun's going to need any type of advantage and help it can get to get slugs up to a capable speed. So that was my whole intention behind buying a 25. I like the 25 pellets way better than I like 22 pellets. B, I think 600 mil barrel, which this will fit perfect, versus the 22 Dreamline, which I think has a slightly shorter air cylinder and a 500 mil barrel. Just don't think I would get quite as good of results with a slug liner as a 600. So that's why I purchased the 25 instead of a 22, even though I'm really interested in shooting a 22 out of this. But anyway, just wanted to show you guys some cool gauges. Oh yeah, let me take the stock off. I'll put a little video in there. I also got a little scope cam for my phone off Amazon that works really nice. I'll get you guys some footage of some cool 100-yard shots. I'm going to try and whack some more paintballs at 104 and do some stuff like that. So hopefully we'll get to do some hunting one of these days. Anyway, till next time, happy air gunning. Hope you guys are having fun tuning your guns, and hope get the chance to see some of you guys share. So till next time. All right, so here's removing the stock real quick. I'm just gonna take this screw out in the back here. Show you this screw. We're gonna take that out. If I can get this in here. I'm trying to do this where you guys can see it on camera. Alright, so we've got the bolt out. Alright. So we're just going to pull up on this. Now inside of here, there's the trigger linkage. We're just going to gently push that out until it falls back down. Alright, so here's where you guys would make your regulator adjustments, right here. Tightening it decreases your reg pressure. Loosening it increases your reg pressure. I would recommend, if you're going to decrease your reg pressure, either fire the gun down to the pressure that you want it at, and then set the reg to it so that you're not pushing against the pressure, or fire the gun on minimum, dry fire the gun on minimum while your Allen key's in there and try to quickly adjust it while the pressure is increasing. So I'll try and give you guys a better view of this gauge here. So there's the new wika gauge. And the way I bled this out was I shot it down to about 100 bar, and then right in here, wipe the oil off that I squirted in there. Right in here is where the hammer actually strikes the valve face. So I put a little punch in here and just lightly pressed against the hammer until it started to release air. I also had the gauge loosened up. I was expecting it to just bleed out of the gauge, and it didn't, and it started to worry me, so then I went this route. I didn't post me doing this because I wasn't sure if I was going to damage the gun or not. But I did that last night, and I refilled it. There's no leaks, and everything seems to be functioning as it was. So that's the gauge. Where I notched out the stock, you guys can see right there. I just took a Dremel and just lightly, filed that down until it fit nicely. And now you can see when I place this back in here, it sits nicely without touching. Also, I didn't have to take out any O-rings or add any spacers or do anything. I literally unthreaded this gauge, or unthreaded the stock gauge and threaded this gauge back in. And just hand snugged it with bare hands, no wrenches on it, and it hasn't leaked, done anything like that. Left the original stock seals in there, and that's about it. I will say one thing: the gauge is a little thicker, it's a little taller, so it does protrude past the stock. So if that's something that's going to bother you, maybe food for thought. All right. Anyway, so that's the regulator. That's the regulator wika air gauge. This is available at Huma, and that's how you notch. What you're going to need to do to your stock if you have probably the classic or a bullpup. I think the TAC and the other ones, you guys don't have any issues with that if you want to upgrade your gauge. So, alrighty, later.